Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Olivia. I'm a beauty and fashion illustrator. I was actually thinking the other day about how drawing consistently really helps. And I'm referring to the illustration behind me because um, I always had an issue with drawing hands. Um, the old me back in the day would if I would get frustrated, I would either leave the room and not, finish the illustration or just change the pose and not show the hands. But believe it or not, even now, hands are a little bit tricky to draw. Um, I spent about 2 hours on that illustration just because 2 hours just on the hands and arms and fingers especially, and I got so frustrated because it was not looking the way I kind of imagine it to look like. So I just worked on it and worked on it and worked on it for 2 hours, and then guess what? Eventually, it just turned out exactly how I wanted. The old me would have just dropped it and started a new brand new illustration. But this is the thing: when you're very consistent with your drawing, and when you're so invested and not focused on not giving up, that's when you're going to see results. And again, this is not going to happen over time, but it's not going to happen instantly. It's just going to happen over time. It's a process. So the more invested you are in this process, the better your artwork it's going to turn out. Let's see who we have here. Mm. I'm gonna try and see if I can log in from my phone to read the messages. Hi Fatima, how are you? So how to start your own fashion brand, some tips. Um, so here's the thing: I'm not a fashion designer, I'm a fashion illustrator, and I do have a separate video on that made on here on YouTube. But as a fashion illustrator, what I started doing is just because what I'm doing is pretty much drawing existing gowns, but the way I'm choosing the designers that are already making those gowns, it's kind of tricky. I mean, I've always tried all the designers out there. Like, I tried drawing their gowns, including Chanel and other well-known designers. But what I've noticed is, with social media and with Instagram in particular, you want to draw something that, the goal is to be featured on that explore page. And to do that, even think about it when you're like going on there and scrolling and to look what people are posting, you're going to have the tendency to click on something that's bigger, more voluminous, that's going to take more of that space. So what I would advise is, if you're into fashion illustration and not fashion design, because those are two different things, I would advise you to actually start and draw something that's more, it's bigger, it takes more of the space on the page. Like you see here, I'm not sure if it's very clear, but this is a whole page, and the whole page is actually filled out with this dress. It's not form fitting, and to be honest, my favorite designer is Chanel, but the gowns from this brand, and then I don't even think they have too many gowns. I think they're more focused on suits, pants, and tailored jackets. But those are so, they're not going to catch the eye on social media as you want them to. So if you're not going to be able to draw the attention to your artwork, it's going to be harder for people to actually go and click on that picture and go onto your, profile and page and Instagram page to scroll through the other artwork you have. So try and find, glamorous, bigger, princess-like gowns. Hope this helps. Hi, Scarla. How are you? So yeah, and with social media, it's such a big, it's a big thing today. And to be honest, I don't think that's gonna, change anytime soon. And I tend to look at the advantages of actually having an Instagram account than the disadvantages. And I promise you, if you're consistent and post every day, then there's no way you're not gonna draw attention. Now, the other thing is your artwork has to be good. Like, I know you're at the beginning, but the more you draw, the better it gets, and it gets better over time. So, and Instagram is focused, it's a business. So, they're gonna pretty much give priority to the people that are consistent and active rather than the people that are just posting now and then they come back 5 months later. Hi, Marianne. What did I give up for art? Well, that's a good question. Um, I think the most important thing is time. I give up time for my guilty pleasures, watching TV, um, going out. I gave up a lot of weekends. Those are all mostly invested into my art. Um, I give up some resources like money. I give up some friends because I don't really, socialize that much ever since the art journey. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And again, Fatima, fashion design and drawings for fashion designs are more, I don't want to say abstract, but more technical. So, for a sketch for fashion design will not have like a face features, will not have hair. It would just be the silhouette, and then the whole focus will be on the garment itself. So, it would have measurements and like explanations of the trim and the details and, zippers and buttons and all that. And also the fashion designer will not have, put their time into creating a background or a mood for their illustration. So with fashion illustration, it's more focused and targeted towards advertising and, artwork for magazines and, making invitations and, I don't know, cards and for packaging, because the focus is to actually draw the people towards the product, and to do that you have to have like an image or a mood for that, packaging and so on. Okay, so were you always interested in fashion, or did you develop the interest over time? Well, here's the thing. I believe that when we're between 5 and 8 years old, like we are all kids and we're all pretty much into drawing. So I think that's where, the interest comes from. And then over time, we tend to, steer away from things that bring us happiness and fulfill us. But yeah, I started when I was 5, 6 years old drawing. And then I was always into old fashion magazines. I remember my sister's sister, the grandmother's sister had, she was a tailor, and she had all these like, old fashioned magazines from the 50s, and she would use them for patterns, and they had like these beautiful handmade, drawings. I was always into that. But and then I started drawing my own drawings based on what I was seeing on TV, other fashion magazines. And I started drawing off and on up until I was like 17 or 18. Then I stopped, and then I started again when I was in my 20s. And I'm going to show you some old artwork just for you to see how important it is to be consistent. So if you guys are familiar with my artwork on Instagram, you'll see the difference. This is from 2018. So yeah, not that great. And this is actually after 5 years of not drawing at all. I mean, there's a lot of bad artwork, but without this bad artwork, you're not. Oh, and then there is a one from 2011. So 3 years later. And this is not drawing consistently. Do you see any difference? Do you see them getting any better? No. Because when you're drawing once a week and then take a break of 5 months or a year and then go back to the drawing board, guess what's going to happen? You're just not going to improve. So the most difficult thing for me is to show texture or fabric on the illustration. How do I overcome that? Well, I would say to actually look at a picture that has the texture that you want to render. And what I've noticed, even with Chanel, they're like really much into that tweed texture, like the wool with I don't even know how to explain it, but what I've noticed is look at the picture and look at the texture, and it's never just one color. Like for me to render a texture like that, like tweed, which is a little bit hard to render, I use markers for the base. So I start with the lightest markers, and then I start with kind of a mid-tone of markers. Then I take color pencils and I start drawing a little bit of details. Then I go back in, blend that in, and then I use acrylic paint. And if you're thinking about it, it's like marker, color pencils, and then acrylic. It's like a layer of a thin layer. Then you go with the color pencil, which is, when you put it on the paper, is thicker than the marker. And then you go in with the acrylic, which is actually very thick. Like you're not gonna, water it down with water. No, you're just gonna put it in there, and that's your final layer. And that's how you create texture. It's gonna pop out. Everything that has like a thick texture on the paper, it's gonna stand out. So I hope this helps. So yeah, I'm trying to see. Oh, and drawing on a different color paper, I was never, you saw like the red paper that I had here, but this is another drawing for 2011. Like, guys, you can improve. Like, these are my drawings from 12 years ago. And I'm not saying it's going to take you 13 years to actually, get to that level. It just means that the whole thing here is just to show you that, taking huge breaks and long breaks over time and going back to the drawing board, it's not going to help your progress. You're actually going to go back and you're going to be at the same level, and it's like starting from zero. I'm trying to see if I have something else. Oh, I have a bunch of them from 2008. And oh god, they're so bad. I don't even I like sharing them because I know that's motivating to other people that are not at the very high level right now in their drawing skills. But yeah, I'm gonna show you one from 2007 and then another one from 2008. So this is my drawing from 2007, guys. It even has the the date on there. I mean, look at this. This is as bad as it gets. Look at the face. I mean, really. But again, did I notice that, this was bad at the time? No, I thought it was great. I thought it was an awesome painting or drawing. And then this is 2008 again. Look at the shoulders and how disproportionate, and mostly look at the face. I mean, look at this, the difference between here and here. So you really need to be careful at the proportions of the illustration as well. So my illustrations have, I draw on Let me take a look here. It's an 11 by 17-inch paper, so it's fairly big. So in centimeters, it's a 9 head, silhouette. So that means actually it's a 10. That means the head has 3 centimeters, and then the body from neck down has 30. So I draw on, kind of a big scale because it lets me have that, that freedom of, the bigger your paper is, and the better it gets when it comes to, to details. If you're drawing on A4 piece of paper like this, you're not gonna be able to get all those details in. Hi, Ramishka. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to see you here. Marianne, what are some things that I've never asked from art? This is gonna sound counterintuitive, but I never asked for money from art, especially at the beginning. And I always had a job because I don't want to put that pressure on my art. I believe that you really need to focus on where your time is gonna be going. So having, another job, it's gonna take the time away from your drawing. But on the opposite side, it's going to give you um, it's going to give you the resources you need to actually put in the art, especially the first few years, like 5 years. And then with those resources, you can actually invest those in your art. You can just, take the time that you have, for after your 9 to 5 or whatever job you have, and then you can take that time and then focus on your art. When you're very into, like, oh my god, I need to make money from art, then what's going to happen is you're going to end up taking any commission out there, low paid, because if you're at your start of your journey, you're not going to get thousands of dollars for your drawings. I mean, if you're fortunate, yeah, I mean, go ahead. But from my own experience, I was never able to do that. So I tried it the first few years to actually make money out of art and not have a job, and this is what happened. I would, you cannot afford to turn down any commission. You're gonna end up taking commissions you don't even want to, and then you're gonna work with people that are just gonna push you and push you and push you because they change their mind as they go. So you learn all these, and this is a very good experience. But it's not something wrong to actually take a commission and work for someone, but do not put the pressure, do not put the pressure on your art to deliver the money that you need to pay your bills, because that's gonna leave you very drained, and burned out. And you don't want that. You want that time to create your best artwork out there, put it on, your social media, get it out there, get it noticed. But yeah, that was one thing that I never asked from art. It's funny because in my 20s, I was always picturing this art career being so glamorous, and um I was like dreaming of fame, and then, oh my God, I need to get there. I need to get there. But the more attached you are to the material things, and the more attached you are to the financial part of this, of this process, then your whole focus is just slipping away from what's important, which is the quality of your artwork, and also, you know, um, the love you have for your craft. And to be honest, what I've noticed is if I start drawing something and I get really frustrated and I'm only doing it because it's for the money or something like that. I mean, you can see it in the artwork. I can show you artwork that's been done for, that's been created for other people, and artwork that I did, that I chose for my own Instagram account. And the difference is you're going to like more the art that I did that was not paid for than the art that, was commissioned. And it might be other factors because you're not very invested into that commission project because it's not your idea, and it's not something that you really wanted to do, or maybe because you see things differently, but the person who is paying you wants this specific thing. And I think that makes a difference as well. Let me see, what else do I have here? I think this was 2000. I think this was 2012 or 13, guys. Like, look at this. I mean, this is what it means to actually not work on your craft consistently. It's just bad. But you know, I kept all these drawings because I know that without this bad art, there would be no good art. I mean, that's the truth. If you don't have bad art, that means you're not growing, which means, you know, you're just stuck at that same level. Oh, this is 2008 again. And yeah, I was talking about proportions earlier. So the head is actually 3 centimeters, and then we have the body, which is 10 times that. And the proportions are usually, from the scale I'm working, are like that: 3 centimeters for the head, 1.5 centimeter from the chin to the neck, to the collarbone, then another centimeter from the another 3 centimeters from the collarbone to the breast area, and then from the breast to the waist, there's another 3 centimeters, so it's like a head length. Then we have from the waist to the pelvic area, there is, I usually put it as 4 centimeters. That's how I measure it. Then the legs in my illustrations are really long, and I really chose that aesthetic because I think it's just more dramatic, and so on. I think it looks good, but again, you can just do your own thing, you know. So in my situation, the legs are 7 from the pelvic area to the knee. It's 7.5 centimeters, and then from the knee all the way to the toes, it's 8 centimeters. So that's totaling 30 centimeters, plus the shoulders. It's gonna be a head length on each side. So 3 centimeters from the middle of the neck all the way to the shoulder, and then another 3 from here to the other shoulder. So that's 6 centimeters. Although sometimes I actually shorten that a bit because I don't really like big, shoulders. So I hope that's another beautiful insight. Oh, and then talking about proportions. This is a drawing again from 2008. Look at our shoulders, guys. Look how disproportionate that is. Also, not only are the shoulders very wide, the breasts are really low. Like they should be upper around here maybe. And look at her face. I mean, come on. But again, if you're drawing like this, that's fine. Just don't stop drawing, because this is what happens when when you're just not drawing consistently. You're not going to be able to see the mistakes, and you're going to keep drawing the same thing over and over again if you're just taking breaks, like, really big breaks. Now I'm going to show you some of my artwork that I did a few years ago that I never posted it just because I don't feel like it's that good. Oh, so favorite medium to work with and most challenging. Marianne, I really love working with, markers. I've worked with them for a long time now. I combine those with color pencils, blend them with, a colorless marker. If you don't have that, you can use alcohol, like, I think it's called medicinal alcohol. And then, it's just layers and layers of, markers and color pencils. And the most challenging medium, I think it's the watercolors, and I don't think they're very challenging. I think that I did not use them enough to actually know how they work. I don't really use them enough because when I create videos for Instagram, I need to wait until they dry out, and I don't have time to do that. Like when you create a reel, you really need to make that very short, because of our lovely attention span lately. Yeah, I think watercolor, although I've seen artists working with watercolor, and I think some of the artworks are just, beautifully rendered. And the thing with watercolor is that you cannot create the same effect with markers, even though markers do have that, when you use them, depending on the brand, you get quite almost the same effect, but not that much. With watercolors you can create that, dreamy, like, especially if you're wanting to draw like, fabrics that are really light, like, silk or see-through fabric, and so on. So I think watercolor is very good for that particular type of fabric. And again, this is where I'm struggling with, also, because since I don't have the experience to work with watercolor so much, those fabrics are not really that used in my illustrations, because I feel like if I'm using markers, they're not going to give the same, they're not going to translate the same texture and fabric on the screen. But yeah, let me show you some of my, a few of my artworks that I did a few years ago, and those are done in watercolors, and they're like, artwork that I did for practicing for before, any events that I had. And again, I talked about it in a previous, video that I made. Now, when you do, that's why it's so important to practice, because if you're that detailed of an artist, what you're gonna end up doing is putting a lot of time in and hours into your artwork, and then when you get commissioned, and you really need to think about the end goal, guys. I'm telling you, I think like the most money, that there are to be made with art are these events, and like brands that are, hiring artists for these live events. But the down thing with these live events is that you really need to work fast. And if you're like that detailed illustrator that has, that has to spend hours on a drawing, then you need to practice before the event and deconstruct that, type of drawing you usually make, and keep just some elements, and then deconstruct it to the point to where it looks nice, it looks like you made it, it's your style, but it doesn't take 5 hours, because, at those events you only have like between 5 and 7 minutes. And sometimes you're not even gonna, if you get carried away, which happened to me, I would spend 15 minutes, which is double the time. Then you're going to go into overtime. And sometimes they're not paying overtime, depending on, what you're, negotiating with them prior to the event. But what's going to happen is you're going to take out that work, and then you're going to take pictures of the, customers that are left without those, illustrations. And then, you're just going to, end up working from home for free. So yeah, let me show you some of those, illustrations. And I have quite a few. So these are some of the illustrations that I did, practicing for this event at Tiffany's. And this is how pretty much they look like. So you see, there's not a lot of detail. There's still a background, because they really wanted like the, New York skyline with all those illustrations. But again, it's like, they all have an aesthetic. They're just bust size. They have the jewelry, which is very important for the brand, and then they have the background. This is one that, and remember, these are all done like a few days before the event as a practice, because to get from a detailed illustration like the one behind me to something that's a very stripped down, very almost abstract, to me it takes, I know it doesn't look like it took a lot of time, but for me to come up with a concept like that and, try and not focus on the tiny, tiny details and so on, it takes a lot. And, it takes a lot of thought put into this process. So this is another one that I did as a practice. So they're all bust size, and then they're all, having jewelry, wearing their jewelry. Now, I was talking about a background, Oh, and these are actually for another event that I had 8 years ago, I think, for David Dearman, and it's the same thing. The focus is on the jewelry, so it just depends on the brand. Now I was talking about backgrounds and how important it is if you have the opportunity to actually just create those using a software. I started with the backgrounds. I started drawing those. I think 6 years ago using Photoshop. And then I transitioned from Photoshop to Procreate because it does come with that pencil and it's easier than Photoshop to manipulate than a mouse. Because with the backgrounds, if you're working on a background and that background gets um, you're not happy with it, like, the whole illustration is pretty much done. You're not even going to want to finish it. And I'm going to show you an example of that. This is something that I created on Instagram, that it's not posted on Instagram because of how bad it is. I think it was like 7 years ago. I think I created it. Yeah, it was 7 years ago. And look at this is completely ruined. This is what I'm talking about. So maybe she would have looked better without this whole black area over here. Like, yeah, it just seems off. I don't know if the perspective is off or something is off, but I knew it was off, and I'm like, I'm done with this. So be careful when you add something, behind your illustration, because that can make or break your artwork. I'm trying to see if I have anything else. Yeah, here's another one. These are only from a few years ago, and they never got posted because I just gave up on the idea. And just for you to see that, it doesn't. What you're seeing on social media is not. I mean, it's real. Everybody's posting their best art out there, but that doesn't mean that they don't have another 20 drawings that have never been, posted because of how bad they were or anything like that. And a good example of this are these next drawings. So this, guys, look at this. You can see how I pretty much gave up halfway through. I mean, yeah, you need to create all these like hideous drawings to be able to actually progress and develop your skills. Here's another one. I think on this one I gave up because I think I didn't like, I mean, I don't even know, like her hair is completely wrong, and I think I was just done with it. And I think her head is fairly big compared to her body. So yeah. And this is another drawing that I always tried when I didn't really know what style I was gonna, go for. For a while there at the beginning, I tried to do more abstract work, and I realized that, that's not who I am as an artist. I'm very detailed, so that's not gonna go anywhere. But at least, hey, I tried. This is another. This is another, very abstract Chanel like illustration. Oh, thank you, Marianne. And then here is one that it's again unfinished. And I think it's just the face that has the hair colored, that I just thought that's just so wrong. As you can tell, they're both wearing sunglasses, which means that their face was not great to begin with. So when I finished this one, I realized I don't want to go any further with the drawing. So I left it unfinished. And see, I'm not throwing them away because I think it's very important to have these drawings to actually go back to and see how far you've come. and how far your art has been developing. I think that's like a gauge for you to see. And if you don't have the bad art, or if you see like a pattern to where you've been drawing for like a month or 2 months, and then your artwork looks the same, then that means you stopped growing, you stopped learning. So there is like a red flag there, meaning that you need to actually draw more, or be more pay more attention to the details, see what you can do better. But anyway, well, that's all for today, guys. I hope everyone had their questions asked, and I hope I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye bye.